So welcome back to the shop, everybody. My name's Andrew and you're watching the Kelley's Country Life. And today we're gonna do another review on the channel. So if you've been watching the channel for any length of time, you know that these solar powered generators are something that I absolutely love, and they're no stranger to the channel. As a matter of fact, I've already did a couple of other tests on different models on the channel, and we have a new one today. So as I often do on the channel, I don't like displaying a product of similar capacity or similar results, so to speak, over and over and over. That's boring for you, the viewer, and boring for me as well. So it's been quite a while since we've reviewed one of these products, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I get offers for these probably weekly. But there was two things that caught my mind about this particular model, and the reason I wanted, well, to do a review and present it to you. So one, this would be the most powerful model we've tested yet on the channel. Our other models have been around 600 to 700 watts continuous, and this is a 1,000 watt model, continuous 2,000 watt peak. And the other thing that caught my attention was the price. So due to the nature of COVID supply and demand issues that we've all been dealing with, I've seen the price jump around a lot on this over the last week to 2 weeks that I've been testing it. But for the most part, it's been in the $600+ range. Now that may seem high to some of y'all that are used to, well, old school gas generators, but keep in mind, this is a pure sine wave generator, so it's safe for electronics, and this is new technology. This isn't your old dirty gas generator right here. And I do want to mention really quick, depending on when you're watching this, this particular company has offered a promo code that's down in the description. It's only for a couple of days right now. They're letting this go for $539. That's what really caught my attention. A 1,000 watt model that's more powerful than anything we tested, that is actually cheaper than the other models that we've tested on the channel. So does that mean that you're getting less quality, less features, or not? That's what we're gonna find out. So this particular solar power generator is from a company called TOPSHAK, and I'll have the link to this product down in the description where you can purchase it off of Amazon, as well as a very generous discount code that's been offered by the company as well. So some quick specs on it: 1,000 watts continuous of 110 volts at 60 hertz, and again, it's pure sine wave, so it's safe for your sensitive electronics. 2,000 watt peak, and they claim 1,100 watt hours of capacity. Now I'm gonna go ahead and cut to a test that I've done several days ago to test true watt hour capacity here using a steady, consistent draw and a kilowatt meter, and I'm gonna show you my results there. Okay, so one test that's important to me is the watt hour claims of units like this. So I have decided I'm going to set up a test. I have a kilowatt meter here plugged into the front side of this unit, and it'll let me know the actual wattage pulled of this particular fan. I'm going to run this fan on high. By the way, I just pulled this unit off of the charger. It is 100% fully charged. We're going to look at the average wattage pulled over the next few minutes from the fan, and then we're going to see how long this unit will run the fan and it'll cut off. So then we can actually see how many watts, how many hours, and get our total watt hour usage. Okay, so I have this plugged in, again, fully charged unit. Let's go ahead and go to high and see how long this will run. All right, so as you can see, this fan on high is staying dead on 474 watts. And for anyone that's curious, this is a 110 volt device, and as this fan's running, it's staying 109 plus, very steady. And it seems to be holding a very steady 60 hertz. So let's go over here and check on the progress. It's been quite a while. So we can see we're down to 1 bar. It's been running 2 hours and 8 minutes, and I totally forgot this tracks kilowatt hour usage, so let's see. How about that? As soon as I clicked on it was at 0.88, so 880 watt hours. All right, so as you can see, they claim 1,100 watt hours of capacity, but usable capacity is around 880 to 900 watt hours, at least for what I tested. Now there's some inconsistencies in the fan there as it draws up and down, but that was as steady of a draw as I could get for that particular day, and I thought a very good test. Now with that said, I decided to go ahead and test one of the other major name brand solar powered generators against their watt hour capacity. They claim a literal, around 700 watt hours of capacity. I did the same exact fan test after I run the test on this, and guess what? it also came up short. It stopped around 590 to 600 watt hours, or about 15% short of its rated capacity. This stopped about 20% short. So they were then, I think it was 5 to 7%, if I remember the final numbers I crunched, of a very well-known name brand unit that has lithium iron phosphate batteries versus this unit here. So what I'm gathering, although I can't draw a complete conclusion here because I haven't tested too many units, is while these may have a certain rated capacity, battery capacity, it looks like they're going to cut off a little short, probably so you don't pull too low of a voltage. We all know that that's very bad for batteries to run them completely dead to zero, all the way down to nothing. That reduces the life of the batteries itself. So I'm sure these units are smart enough to know that, hey, once we reach a certain voltage or battery capacity remaining, we need to cut off so we can charge and bring this back up to capacity. So I just want to let you know I'm seeing that on the other units that I'm testing as well. So it has 310 volt output outlets here, as well as a type C output of fast charger. It's rated at 60 amps or 60 watts, excuse me, according to the manual. It has multiple USB outputs, has a 10 amp rated, you know, basically what we all call the cigarette lighter or 12 volt output there. As far as input charging goes, it has a DC input. It also comes with a charging block here. That's where that plugs. Or you can plug a solar panel into that. And it's got a PV input as well, which is also DC. You'll see some of the solar panels there also have those same connections. That's why these are called solar power generators. But with that said, this can plug off of, well, your 120 volt wall outlet. This can also charge off of a 12 volt outlet. So if you're, say, running from campsite to campsite and that's what you're using this for, plug this into your vehicle and charge it. And it will also charge off of solar. By the way, the manufacturer says about 120 watt is the capacity for solar panels for this. So speaking of charge times, that's one area I'm seeing where this may be a little lacking compared to other big name brands out there. It's a lot slower recharging. But again, I figured something was going to have to suffer for an amazing price. Only you can determine if the bells and whistles and features of units like this is something you really desire, or if you're more into this for the output and capacity, which is what I think most people probably are going to be into. But let's talk about that. The manufacturer claims 9 to 12 hours for solar charging off of a 100 watt panel. Now, as far as using the car outlet adapter, they claim 12 to 15 hours, so keep that in mind with your charging. And the wall outlet adapter claims the quickest, it's around 8 to 10 hours. Now, some of the units I've tested can charge in an hour and a half, which is toward the upper end of any kind of charging in this capacity range that I've seen, whereas a lot of them take 3+ hours. So this is a little bit on the lower end there, but again, the capacity and the price is the reason that I'm testing this, not for all the extra bells and whistles and features. So here's an up close look at the unit. You power it on up here. It is now fully charged, as you can see by the battery indicator. And for example, if I were to turn on the AC outlets here, you'll see that it is showing that it's in AC mode. Same for USB or DC output there. You can turn all these off or on. So I've also tested while this was charging, I was able to output and run certain devices. If you've seen in the test that I ran earlier with the big shop fan, I determined that I'm getting around 880 to 900 watt hours of true usage or true capacity. Doesn't mean there's not more storage in this unit. That's before this says, hey, we need to power down and go into recharge mode. So I'm gonna run a standard size shop fan here. I love these particular style fans right here because they move a ton of air, but don't make a lot of noise, and they don't use a lot of energy usage. So now that we know the actual usable capacity, we can turn on these fans, do a quick calculation, and see how long we expect an intended device to run. So if I turn this fan on low, you can see that we are pulling around 68 watts. So now if we take that 880 watt hours of capacity, divide it by the 68 on low, that's 12.9 hours of runtime. That is a long run time for a fan like that. So what excites me the most about devices like this is I live in Florida. We get tornadoes, we get hurricanes, power outages are relatively common. Running a fan, especially in the heat of summer after a hurricane has went by, is very important. So I like to see how long you can run things like this. So if you look over here at this table, we're going to test a few shop type items as well as some other stuff that I brought out of the house that's been a popular request. Then we're going to move into the house. We're going to test refrigerators with this actually running an air conditioned thing things like that that you may be genuinely curious about. Now, people may use this for camping. That's where fans and computers and charging camera equipment may come in. But a lot of people are probably going to use this for prepping or power outage type situations. So an extremely popular request the last time I did some of these tests with these devices was a CPAP or BiPAP machine. I did not have one at the time, but I have my hands on one right now. So let's say again, we're in that hurricane or power outage situation. Most people care about nothing more than sleeping comfortably. You've already went through a stressful event, and guess what? A lot of people can't sleep well without a CPAP or BiPAP. So let's see what kind of wattage this pulls and expected usage. All right, so now this BiPAP unit is running, and let's see here. We are pulling 37 watts. Hopefully you can see that. So again, on a fully charged unit, we can just take 880 watt hours of capacity divided by 37 watts. And according to this, I can run this for just under 24 hours. Well, that's not gonna be a problem. Most people are not gonna sleep anywhere near that long. 8+ hours. Looks like you could run this for up to 3 days if that's all you ran without recharging this unit. That's pretty awesome. All right, so one other thing I'm gonna test, what if you're sleeping, you want to charge your phone, run your BiPAP, and run a fan in the room? I can see that being a common scenario. So you're looking around 42 watts. I just don't have enough outlets here to run the fan. That's with the BiPAP and the phone charging. So let's unplug the phone. So it looks like the phone's pulling around 5 to 6 watts. I'm gonna plug in a box fan here. With the fan on low, looks like we'd be pulling a total of 87 watts for everything combined, and you would get 10 hours of run time. That's running a fan, a BiPAP machine, and charging your phone throughout the night. So that is an entire night's sleep that this device could run that. Let's go ahead and bump the fan up to medium, and you'd get just under 7 hours of run time like that. Again, that may be enough for someone to get a night's sleep. I don't know, some people are gonna be curious just about the box fan. So on low, 22 hours of run time. Let's go ahead and run it on up to high and see. 15.7 hours of run time. Now you're noticing I'm having to use my kilowatt meter here. They're relatively affordable. You can get them on Amazon. I'll try to remember to leave a link down there. So that's something else you're sacrificing with a unit like this. Some of the higher end units will actually tell you wattage and output and expected runtime of the unit. However, if you don't feel like paying all that extra money for those features, you can pick one of these up. I've seen them as cheap as like $12, and it'll tell you very similar stuff there, at least as far as your wattage and output goes. We tested this, but I'll just go ahead and show you. This will run, say, an angle grinder. I can see a lot of people wanting this for, well, a remote job site, running certain types of power tools. And I'm about to cut to a scene here to show you that not only will this kick it on, but a lot of people are curious about, and I was asked in the last test, hey, it's great that it'll kick on and run tools, but you need to put them under load. Actually do some cutting with them to see if it'll kick this unit out, because hey, this says 1,000 watts, which is a certain amperage. Will it actually handle a tool under a load? So I just did that. As far as the really big shop fan over here goes, that's a heck of a lot of wattage draw on a unit like this. You've seen that it will run this for a little over 2 hours on high, and close, well, I think it was around 2 3/4 hours, if I remember correctly, on the low setting. Something else I've been asked to test, hey, I'm on a remote job site, I need to run some sort of shop vac and clean up. These things pull a heck of a lot of power. I was not successful in the last couple of tests that I've done running a even larger shop vac than this, but I happen to have a new one. This is still 4 horsepower. That's a heck of a lot of draw on this. Let's see if it'll even kick it on or if it will actually trip this unit out. By the way, this unit does have overload protection built into it to where it will trip off and say, hey, you've just tried to draw too much power. Will not run a 4-horse vacuum. And I kind of figured that. That is a very powerful motor right there. Now this is probably going to be the most powerful thing I'm testing today. Let's see how many amps this Milwaukee circular saw is rated at. 13. And if my math's correct in my head, that's actually over capacity for this particular unit right here. So let's see if it'll start it up. More importantly, let's see if it'll actually cut through a 2x4. I can see this being a very popular saw that people are gonna wanna know if this will run. But without a doubt, this is actually above and beyond capacity there. So let's see. Well, as you can see, it tries to start it, but it kicks out. 13 amps would require, well, roughly 1,300 watts continuous to run. So I kind of already knew this probably wasn't going to be capable of keeping this going, especially in wood. But it was worth a try. Sometimes these things surprise you. Well, what about a Sawzall? A lot of people use these for demo and for building as well. This is another popular tool I could see people being curious about using. Let's see the amperage output on this. 8.5 amps, so roughly translate to about 850 watts of needed capacity. This should be able to run that, but will it run it once we put it under a heavy load, start blasting through this 2x4? Very dull blade, mind you, as well. But it kept up with the load and the demand, so yes, it can run that tool, no problem. The corded drills, corded jigsaws, corded sawzalls, things like that doesn't seem to be a problem. Once you start getting into your 10, 11 amp tools, which is going to be some of your more powerful routers, your chop saws, circular saws, things like that, you really do need a more powerful unit to run those. So here we are out in my shop where I have a 5,000 BTU window unit. This has been one of the probably second most popular requests. I have actually run these off of these devices before. So let's see. So right now, with the fan on high, the compressor is not kicked in or engaged yet. We are at 56 watts. So that is just under 16 hours of runtime if you just want to use this for fan only. Now I'll let this timer count down since I just plugged this in. As soon as the compressor engages, there it is. The unit did not kick out. Let's look at the actual running wattage now with this compressor engaged. So I hope you can see that 387 watts is what it settled out at. So it did not have an issue at all starting a 5,000 BTU window unit. And at 387 watts, you can expect around 2.27 hours of runtime. While that may not be a lot of runtime, you gotta keep in mind, we're running an AC off of this thing. That blows my mind that a little battery pack like this is able to do that. And in the event of just sweltering heat or a power outage, over 2 hours of cooling off a room can mean a heck of a lot to somebody. So I've ran this test before as well, and this is a very popular test. This is one of the most important things for these units to me. So I kid you not, in this gigantic chest freezer right here is more value in food than what one of these units cost. That to me justifies the cost of one of these. Maybe you're in the same situation, a lot of steaks and food or things that you harvested yourself that's hard to put a price on. There could be easily $1,000 worth of food in one of these deep freezers, and all it takes is one extended power outage to lose all this food. And well, if you had this, it literally paid for itself with the first power outage. At least that's the way I look at it. I really want to protect my food. So what I'm going to do here is plug in our deep freezer, and I'm going to turn the thermostat to where it engages the compressor. We'll just take another full, like worst case scenario reading here to see how long this could run. Now keep in mind, if you're in a power outage situation and you just plug this in, deep freezers are very efficient. It's not going to run the compressor all the time. It's only going to cycle on as needed. So you can get a much longer run time off of this unit than what I'm about to tell you. Worst case scenario, the freezer got too hot and the compressor has to stay fully engaged is the number I'm about to give you. So pulling 0 watts right now. Let's go ahead and kick this in. The compressor just started. Wow, very, very efficient compressor. 131 watts. So if this unit was fully charged, you could get all 6.7 hours of runtime. Again, that's with the compressor staying engaged. It is not going to take 6.7 hours to get this back to temp, especially if it's full of frozen food. So this could literally cycle off and on all night long into the next day. No doubt this could save you in a power outage situation and could easily keep food for a day plus, unless you allowed your freezer to get so hot that this had to constantly stay running to get it back to temperature. All right, so let's see if this will start the refrigerator. They typically have a little bit more surge in starting wattage. And it will not start the refrigerator. So I've tried starting the refrigerator without the extension cord, without the kilowatt meter, with this short cord plugged straight into this every way I can think of, and it just does not have enough output for that initial surge of the compressor on this particular refrigerator. So please excuse the mess. This is a junky old shop here, but it happens to have another very popular requested item to test. What about a mini fridge? Because I know a lot of y'all have mentioned, hey, we have kids in college. What if they have power outages, want to run their mini fridge or charge their laptops, things like that. So let's test the mini fridge and see how much wattage it pulls. So a surprising wattage pull there. What I just seen, the compressor just kicked off, but when it was running, 298 watts. Surprising amount more than my deep freezer. Now keep in mind, this is an extremely old mini fridge as well. I'm sure it's not as efficient as the new ones. So should that refrigerator had become so hot that the compressor has to stay fully engaged, this would run it for 3 hours. All right, and probably the most important test of all, doesn't matter if it's a tornado, a hurricane, the zombie apocalypse, nobody can survive without their coffee. So heating elements are one of the hardest draws there is on a unit like this, and it's going to pull the power down the quickest. So if you're using cooktops, heat plates, things like that, by the way, this will run that. For example, if you use a heat plate in the 600 watt range, for example, a lot of them are, I've tested that before, that's well under the wattage that this can run. But what about a quick, intense draw from a coffee maker? Now, no doubt this could make several pots of coffee, but can it handle the initial surge of the heating element starting up? Let's see. All right, it is on. Let's see if the wattage starts increasing, if the unit can handle the heating element. So here's what's very interesting. This is at 1193 watts and holding. That is an insane amount of wattage draw. And what's surprising is that is almost 200 watts over what this is rated to continuously provide. Yet, the unit has not tripped out. Now it's rated for 2000 peak. That's for a short period of time. 1000 continuous. And you can see the draw that these heating elements have, 1193 watts. So if you were to make coffee continuously with this, you would get really less than an hour. But for an initial pot or two of a standard style coffee maker or a Keurig, no doubt this could make many, many, many cups. So something else that's very important with these units, being that they claim that they're sine wave technology, which is a nice clean power. How does my computer recognize that once I plug that in? It just flashed, it's showing that it's charging. I don't see nothing odd going on. Now, a lot of people are going to argue, hey, you can go spend comparable money on a gas generator and get more power. And that is true unless you start really pricing out good quality sine wave generators. They can be expensive. But you got to keep in mind, this isn't necessarily for everyone. Where this is going to be someone that doesn't want the noise or the combustion engine, the gases, everything else that's put off. Think about people in high-rise buildings, condos, certain HOAs that may not allow generators to run. Camping, you want to sleep and don't want to hear a generator all night. I can think of tons of scenarios to where a completely silent generator is going to be in high demand by some of you. So hopefully you enjoyed this test. There was a million other things that I could have tested that just seemed like some of the popular items, whether you're camping, which should be a popular option for this, power outage situations, prepping, just general preparedness, fans, charging phones, computers, things like that are going to be your most obvious uses for this. So in general, I don't know your particular situation. Hopefully I've provided you with enough information to decide that this is feasible for you or not. So keep in mind, some of the bigger name brands in 1000 watt models are like, you know, 800, 900 bucks and up on Amazon. This one right now, like I said, the price is fluctuation just due to availability, but they have guaranteed to lock in for just a few days after this video is released. I think, what did I tell y'all, $530 something dollar price tag. The discount code's down in the description. Don't forget to put that discount code in Amazon when you check out. That's where you'll see the discount itself. At that price, it's kind of hard to beat. I will say I wish this had fired off my refrigerator. That's the only thing that I would have loved to have seen, but your refrigerator results may vary. Now with that said, I was blown away that this held 1200 watts continuous output, or right there at it, with that Keurig for almost a minute. That is above what this is rated to provide. That kind of surprised me right there. If y'all enjoy these type of tests and reviews, I love doing them. Let me know. Like I said, I get offers all the time to test cool products like this. I turn the majority of it down because I don't want the channel to turn into just a straight review channel. But I will go ahead and admit, I'm very curious about potentially testing a 2000 watt model or even 3500 watt models that I'm seeing right now. That's significant power output. If there's something else you want to see me test with the TOPSHAK right here, by all means, drop a comment. I'll try to run out here and test it and give you honest feedback on how it performed. So thank y'all so much for watching. Thank you, TOPSHAK, for sending this out for testing, and we will catch you on the next video.